everyone, welcome to Living La Vita Loca podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I am currently looking at the Evercade's live thing.
That was exactly why I started recording, because I was like, oh, real podcast, like actual, you're
Stuff
looking into
now.
At the Evercade, what do they call it, an Evercade Direct, a Nintendo Direct?
Something like that. A few cartridges have been announced.
Yeah.
Gremlin Collection 2.
Oh.
Windjammers, Karnov and Friends brilliantly for the some of the Neo Geo stuff and Neo Geo Arcade 1.
You sound very excited about that.
I am. I like me some Neo Geo stuff.
Yeah.
So and I like Evercade. So this is good news.
It is very good how supportive they're being of, I guess, Evercade / the cartridges and everything they're doing still. I don't know how. I wonder how well the arcade machines sold.
Not sure.
Going into the last into Christmas and stuff and things. So
not sure, but I do know that I had real trouble trying to
not buy one.
No. Like I recently bought a copy of the Bitmap Brothers collection.
Oh yeah.
And ended up having to get it exchanged because it just wasn't working, and then the replacement wasn't working.
Oh shit!
And the third one did.
How weird.
A different batch.
Yeah.
So it looked like it was a batch number thing.
You're going to be one of those customers that they're now going to go, fuck, we fucked the whole batch.
Yeah. I hope I helped.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope
you helped in some way.
And helpful, hopefully. But yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how to link that. I was about to say, speaking of being a tricky customer or a good customer, we're on a Freeplay Fortnightly this week, and we haven't done that for a little while, where we both pick a game, keep it secret from each other, and then we review said game, and then our partner in crime gives us a score based on our review. So I always quite enjoy doing these because you never really know where the fuck they're going to go, and you can always just nuke one of your best friends across the table because they may give you a stunning review and you could actually just go, well, that's a fucking 2, mate. And then we would never do that. We're trying to guess the right score. But, if you piss me off or vice versa, then we couldn't we? So it's fine.
Yeah, well, it's an option, isn't it?
But that would be being a tricky customer. There we go. Right. Yeah, fine. That's okay. Link that away. I've got 2 or 3, maybe, depending on how we're doing time-wise, shorter rhythm games. Rhythm is a dancer. It's a source of magic.
Lovely.
Yes. But I don't mind going whenever. Should we just Rochambeau as usual?
Yeah, all right.
I'm going to try and do all mine at once.
Yeah, okay.
In like a 10-minute spur.
I go stick the kettle on or something and come back.
Yeah. And then just guess the score and see if you get it right.
Walk in, yell a random number.
Rock, paper, scissors. Here we go.
Right.
1, 2, 3, go. Scissors, double scissors. 1, 2, 3, go. Oh, rock beat scissors.
Rock.
Okay,
right. Excellent.
Rich won that one, so Rich is going first. Beat the shit out of me.
Right. On our schedule, this is for later in the summer, but I'm doing it now for a couple of reasons. Tekken 8, my friend. We are doing Tekken 8.
You are a tricky customer.
I am
screwing
being
our fucking schedule.
Okay, the reason for this, though,
I linked a game to that game.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to link a different one. So we are teetering at the time of recording on the cusp of season 2 of Tekken 8, and with it some changes to how the game will be playing. And I'm very aware that I already wrote these notes quite a while back, and it would need to be a re-review at some point. However, the reason I'm trotting this out is because I think my thoughts on it are not necessarily to do with the combat and the minutiae of it, because I mean it's the kind of game that you can live in. You can pick apart, and I am nowhere near that level. Right, that huge caveat with a lot of how I felt about playing this. Right, huge caveat, because like it's perfectly competently put together. Right, and I know that it sounds like it's damning it with faint praise,
and it is.
But it's good. It is good. Like, it plays well when you're in it and you're doing the fights and all that. It still plays like Tekken and feels good. It feels crunchy, feels meaty, feels heavy, all the good stuff, right? That I would want from a Tekken.
Okay.
There's a butt you can see coming from space.
You always say that's your favourite phrase. Is it? I was like, there is a butt.
Of course there is.
I was like, wait, it's coming.
Obviously, there's one. But
hey, he did it. He did the butt.
the note I've got up here, right, is bit up its own arse.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I like that butt.
But it does...
Double butts.
It does feel a little bit like it's up its own arse. And the reason that I didn't want to sit on this particular set of notes any longer is when I originally wrote that was before they did the latest version of Virtua Fighter 5 and announced Virtua Fighter 6.
Yeah.
That's how far back that I was starting to think about talking about this game. And the next bit was like, lack of 3D fighting game competition, perhaps? And I think that started to show. And like in the community and the way they were reacting to stuff. And, people who love Tekken love Tekken. You can go on subreddits and tell people that we've talked about it. No one's going to give a fuck, right? There is literally nothing I can say in this podcast that is new or insightful or anything that anybody who loves Tekken is going to want to hear. Believe me on that, right? So I'm not even going to talk about the fighting itself. I will have one point on it, right?
Okay.
And I think for me, the more I was dancing around it and the more I was trying to get to grips with it and trying to appreciate it might be a personal taste thing. Like it's no secret that I love 2D fighters. I'm very much on that side of that particular fence.
Yes.
But occasionally there is an itch that only a 3D fighting game can scratch, right? And I think the point that I'm going to try and articulate, I hope will, make sense. But I'm going to have to talk around it a little bit first to try and piece it together, right? And that is partly because of how Tekken 8 is built for when it comes to modes and how it all hangs together. So having Virtua Fighter 5 and come out again in a new version on Steam and all that more recently kind of threw this into sharp relief and made me think, actually, no, I will go ahead with trying to talk about Tekken a little bit. Because that is very focused. So, you don't have much in the way of single player stuff. You've got an online bit of a training mode and not a heck of a lot else, right? But it looks great, plays great, and just sets out to do one thing and do that really, really well.
Yeah.
Tekken 8, you've got a couple of single player things, like big bits of content there, like solid chunky things to sink your teeth into. You've got the kind of Tekken Ball mode is back and things like that. You've got a lot of cool training options like ghost fights and all this kind of stuff. You've got this other like arcade quest mode, which is kind of where my issues start with it. And it's a bit of an odd one. It's almost like they tried to take a tutorial and put a story around it. And so it's kind of, without overtly saying this is where you should start this game, is kind of the place where it assumes you're going to start.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is that the art style for the bits that it's telling you this story is very much like the old like Nintendo Mii's and stuff like that. It's very, very different to the rest of the game. Very different. Because you are in this world playing Tekken 8 on arcade cabinets. And
what?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm nodding.
It's very meta.
I nodded and smiled.
It's very meta.
I stopped smiling.
Yeah. So like you create a little avatar going through this story and they play Tekken 8. Now the thing is that you have like it instantly feels like this kind of weird disconnect to the rest of the game. And even within that, you've got this little group of friends and they kind of introduce themselves as like, I'm the one that really likes to fight competitively. I'm the one that really likes to do this, that, the other. And there's one person that's like, I really like to dress up my character. And like they've clearly gone for what the developers think are the various reasons that people would play Tekken. And then it gets to the one where it's like, I like to dress up my character. And you're like, surely that's just a kind of perk, an extra bonus, a thing on the side. Like, are you honestly telling me that people are buying this game to just dress up a character and not do much else with it?
That is interesting that they think that, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if they genuinely think that, or if they're just trying to highlight it.
Yeah, or they're just trying to cater to a certain. But then you'd have to be playing Tekken to know
in order to appreciate that, right? Yeah, exactly. And it was that bit, that moment where I was like, I think I know. No, I think I know what my problem with this game is. I think it's got a bit of an identity crisis, and I think it's again, like going back to that kind of lack of competition until Virtua Fighter came out of the woodwork again, it's like it kind of didn't really know where it wanted to go or what it wanted to do. And it kind of almost, I guess you've got a lot of fighting games now have, the bar for tutorials and training modes has raised considerably, and you've got a lot of games as well that have more accessible control schemes and ways you can customize it to make it accessible for you. So if you don't want to do the technical input stuff, then you can do that. And it almost feels like they were making Tekken and then thought that they had a bit of pressure to also be that accommodating rather than just sticking to their guns and doing their own thing. Whereas Virtua Fighter, no such qualms. Like, if you're not going to play Virtua Fighter the way Virtua Fighter wants to play, it couldn't give a shit, right? You could go play something else.
Get the fuck out of here.
Whereas it's almost like Tekken thought, when they were developing it, like, oh, well, we're the only 3D fighting game in town at the moment. Like, there's no Virtua Fighter, there's no Soul Calibur on the horizon, so we kind of have to bring people in.
Right.
And I do wonder if that has caused this little sort of stumble.
To be everybody's friend.
Yeah, rather than just doing its own thing. And I kind of would prefer it if it just did its own thing.
Yeah.
And it's not helped by the fact that, you do have options in the match for, you can press a button and simplify your controls a little bit or what have you. But that's kind of doing it on the fly. That's not really like an option you select ahead of time. So it's quite easy to do by accident. And I did do it a couple of times, but I'm sure there's ways around that. But my kind of next snag was, again, in that kind of set of tutorials where it's trying to teach you around about the different mechanics and the meters and things like that. And you have, these special moves that you can do by just pressing a button when your health hits a certain percentage. I mean, that's not really anything new in a fighting game, but it is just like a one button press and it just comes out. And the game, seemingly, the way it teaches you, it kind of almost implicitly wants you to do that all the time. And you're just sitting there and you're like, but I know that this is the kind of thing that as soon as you try to do that online, as a new player, doing what the tutorial tells you, you are going to get blown up so fast. So it's like, in its attempt to be accommodating and bring new people in, it almost feels like it's kind of selling you a bit of a lie from the start. It's like, well, like, and I tried it online, and sure enough, like, it didn't fucking work.
This isn't real life, kids.
And it's just like, okay, well, I appreciate that it's there. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel like it's like it felt a little bit misguided, which, as somebody who is not particularly good at Tekken by his own admission, but would love to be, like, the thought of this mode kind of going, okay, no, it's all right, we're gonna learn about this, friend.
Tell you how to do it.
It kind of felt a little bit like a bit of a kick in the teeth. I could see why that could be frustrating for new players, and if all of this stuff is there to bring new players in, then it hasn't worked. For my money's worth. But I mean, at the same time, you can't get too bogged down in all that. You can't really dwell on it, because that is like one mode of potentially dozens.
But you said that was the start. That was a quite clear starting point.
Well, not necessarily as clear as it could be. I found I made more headway with the story mode and stuff like that, and because that's just naturally what I've always done, was go there first. And I was like, oh shit, there's no like tutorial in the story mode. They've siphoned it off. And put it in this other mode.
It's interesting, because then that feels like that's not really for you. So I guess my point to, I'm not defending the game at all, but almost is like that. Do you have to even access that part of the game? Is it such a big chunk of the game that is there enough game elsewhere to enjoy for the money that you pay for Tekken 8?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course there is. But also that arcade quest art style transfers over to the online stuff. So if you go play online, you have an avatar.
Oh, really?
That is in that different art style. So, like, in that respect, there is that kind of...
That feels like the main part of the game.
Yeah, exactly.
With other
that kind of
facets. Yeah.
There is some consistency to the identity that way, right? But at the same time, it doesn't quite ever feel to me like it gels. Like, Street Fighter 6 does basically the same thing. You can go into a place with an avatar and all that. That avatar will also be in the single player content and all that. But like the art styles, the approaches, the things that you are doing, it all just feels a little bit more cohesive to me. and it just feels like it's a bit more, like, weirdly, Street Fighter 6 feels a bit more comfortable in its own skin.
Okay.
Right? It just feels like there's something about Tekken 8 where it doesn't quite feel comfortable in itself.
Do I think I remember from the recent Retro Gamer interview that I almost had the same sort of feeling when I was reading the article about it, that it did almost describe itself, or the I can't remember who it was even being interviewed, almost as the only game in town, and therefore we should be celebrating fighting games, etc. It did feel like it was almost like, come on, have a big hug with Tekken 8 because we're the only thing you can have a hug with. But
yeah. And I think that's possibly been to this game's detriment. And you look at the community stuff and it's a bit of a mixed bag. A lot of people seem to love it. A lot of people seem to question various bits and bobs and some of the stuff that will be coming up in season 2 at time of recording, are raising further questions. But like,
is PlayStation Home coming back?
No,
is PlayStation Home coming back in Tekken?
No, but like, I did see somewhere, and I wish I could remember where so I could cite it properly, but I can't, I'm afraid. But I think I saw somewhere that previous Tekkens would have had a release in arcades and a good sort of couple of years run up before the home version comes out, whereas Tekken 8 kind of didn't. And it's a lot closer, if not simultaneous and all that. And I do wonder if that's possibly at the heart, if that and this idea that Tekken is suddenly having to shoulder this duty to new players, which frankly it shouldn't. Like it, and I think between those two things, that's possibly at the heart of my kind of misgivings with it. And like I've really tried to learn to love this game, and there is just something that I just can't emotionally latch onto with it in the same way that I did with Street Fighter 6. And I think it's that kind of identity feels like it's got a little bit lost somewhere.
It must be difficult with fighting games. I would assume, obviously, how much you enjoy them and stuff. That isn't to be able to go, well, what are the differences that make me feel a certain way about them? Certainly, like you say, I mean, obviously, apart from having 2D ones and 3D ones and things, but if you were going to pick, I know there's strong characterization, you can have good stories, you can have really good movesets, but also there must be a general vibe that as well, like to each of these games, and why one does resonate and one doesn't.
Street Fighter 6 has a goofiness to it that I would happily agree does not appeal to everybody. Yeah, of course it doesn't. How could it? But it sticks to its guns. Like it knows what it's like and it knows what it wants to do. And if, again, like with Virtua Fighter, if you're not on board with it, that is fine. You can find something else. Yeah. Tekken, when you're playing it, or when I was playing it rather, it just felt like the developers had put themselves under a lot of pressure to deliver something that I'm not convinced they wanted to deliver or fully believed in. It almost feels like they felt an obligation to do some of the things that they've done in it. And I think that comes through. I'm possibly overthinking it, but for me, it felt like it was, in its attempts to be more accommodating, it felt like it was somehow putting up more barriers for me personally, and just meant that I couldn't quite buy into it and invest myself in the way that I was kind of hoping I would.
Okay, cool. So technically sound.
I mean, there's a bunch of characters in it. There's a bunch more coming. It still plays like good Tekken. It's solid. I could see why some people would have it as their favorite one. I could see why plenty of people would absolutely not. Yeah. Personally, for me, I think it overcomplicates things a little bit with some meta stuff that it kind of never used to do. Okay. Possibly could do with simplifying a little bit. Yeah. But then the more I was playing of both this and Virtua Fighter 5 again, the more I realized that actually in 3D fighting world, I'm probably more on the Virtua Fighter side of the shop. Yeah. So I think a lot of that could be down to personal preference.
Okay. This is tough because it feels like a lot is personal. Obviously, you spoke a lot about the personal but that's really good that you've done that because like you can easily go out there now and just read a Tekken 8 review. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've give good citation about what it is that you feel around it and stuff. So, in the realms of this podcast, maybe not the score that necessarily would be in matching with that you'd see in magazines and stuff and things like that. For you, I feel like you're saying it's a accomplished game, but you're absolutely not in love with it because it doesn't present you with, I don't know, just doesn't give you the same goofy fun. For example, with Street Fighter, and
I guess to give it a very ham-fisted analogy that I'm trying to come up with on the fly, we're talking the difference between I don't know, like, when you're young and you're dating and stuff like that, and you've got somebody that is absolutely objectively beautiful, but just has no fucking character. Yeah. Or you've got somebody that's a little bit quirky, has a bit of character, a bit of spark.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know which one I would go for personally.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. It's not quite the same, but like with fighting games, I find that the best bet is to emotionally invest. You need a hook. You need something. And it could be with Tekken that I just haven't quite found the character that gelled with me or something like that. But, you know, there are a couple in there that I'm familiar with from back in the day. I went to them and it was just like, it just wasn't clicking. The spark wasn't there, you know?
I'm coming down on what sounds like a really damning score, but I don't think it's not meant to be. I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10. But that is based on your personal feelings about the game, not necessarily the game being horrendous or anything, but almost just that it just isn't necessarily for you, and they've not done a great job of landing it for you as a fighting games. You're going to be an aficionado? Maybe an aficionado, you know, lover. Lover of the genre.
I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. Like,
Aficionado.
And like, I think that's a fair score. Because the other reason that I wanted to do it now was because I realised that if I did talk about it later in the summer, not only would a load of stuff changed again, but also I would have to score it.
As well, the games just changed now, don't they?
Well, this is a
different game of.
But especially with fighting games.
10 minutes ago.
Like, especially with fighting games, a lot can change. And it could quite easily be that actually the only fair way of doing it would be to come back and review it again at some point. Or, you know, if we come back at the end of the year and we're talking about the scores, I'm sure that there will be some stuff to look at off the back of that. But yeah, ultimately, I think that's like 5 of those points are for technical ability. And then the others on top would have been character, like, and how I could invest, but it's just not there.
Yeah. No, fair enough. So you mentioned then being young and dating, and I'm trying to think about how old I would be, you know, or to even care about, you know, doing that at some point.
I never really went for it. I don't know what I'm saying.
And then that kind of made me think, you know, probably about 25 years ago, maybe in line with when the PlayStation 2 was released. And that's my link to the games that I've been playing, really. So I guess rhythm games from the first couple of years of the PlayStation 2. The first one being Fantavision, or Fantavision, like, as in, you know, the drink Fanta, like, is excellent. You know, like, I do like Fanta.
Is this affiliated?
No. Have you got a favourite flavour of Fanta?
I usually go lemon.
Lemon's best, isn't it? No, it's not affiliated at all. It's not for Fanta. Like, as in, I think Fanta have come off pretty well by not affiliating themselves with Fantavision. So it's pretty much a day one PS2 game. So it came out like 3 days after the PlayStation 2 in Japan. Not entirely sure why it didn't come on day one. I don't know if there was something wrong with Fantavision, really. But so I did quite a bit of research into this, and actually I found like an old retro gaming article, maybe from like, you know, probably like 50. The good thing about retro gaming now is that with your subscription, you can now go back into the digital versions for like maybe 150 of the previous, I'm going to say episodes, but it's not episodes. and there was a good retro gamer article in there and stuff and everything. I was doing a bit of research, and I'd seen that the chap who was the designer for it. So I'm gonna not butcher his name. Katsuyuki Kanataka. I am gonna butcher his name.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he was basically known as a bit of a designer for manga stuff, and he did quite a bit of work on Street Fighter Alpha 2.
Oh, nice.
So it seemed a bit strange, really, that his repertoire and CV was to do manga stuff, and then PlayStation 2 thought it was a really great idea to kind of launch their console on the back of a colourful family-style rhythm game. Designed by this chap. I don't really understand where the connection was, where they thought they were just going to land something, where they were like, this is the thing that people want. And I remember being a kid, seeing the Fantavision in the shops when I had my PlayStation 2. But then you kind of look at it and go, right, okay, there's Fantavision, but I can also have SX, Time Splitters, or Ridge Racer 5. And it always felt like I was never going to get round to Fantavision compared to having that. And the funny thing about Fantavision is that it's also... it feels so Nintendo-y in terms of like what they're after, almost. That isn't it? Feels like Sony's like Nintendo game for the start of the PlayStation 2. And Fantavision is actually almost, I guess, given the guise of it being a TV show. Like, so the opening credit is this like families like sat in a 50s setting watching like a 50s television with Fantavision on it. It's really odd. Like, it's just really strange. But I guess the idea that they're trying to get to is that it's almost like that it is a family game, and it's one of those things where you all gather around the television and play together. And it absolutely is not that. So I don't understand what the links were. So you basically are trying to catch and detonate fireworks with your analog stick across the sky in almost a timing sort of based way. If you catch them quick enough, great. You can then, and you have to catch like a certain number of them at the right time. So I think it's 4. Is it you have to get? So you've got to get 4 in a row of the same colour. And so say you've got 4 greens come up, then I think it's 3, but then you can catch more than 3. And so say 3 green fireworks come up, you can swipe your analog, try and rotate your analog stick to almost face the direction of where they are, and it captures those fireworks, and then you press a button to detonate them all at once.
Right.
If you do it too quickly, then you're almost like basically in a bit of a bind where it's like, more fireworks turn up of different colours and it becomes very confusing. If you basically leave them too long and don't detonate them, then that counts as a miss towards your score.
Okay.
And that really has a massive impact on your score, basically. Any misses are pretty bad. This game is super hard. Like, as in, so I was playing on easy mode, and it is ridiculous how hard they've made this game. It's almost like an arcade experience, really. That is in that... you can tell that this developer has not really thought about it being a home console game. It's almost still stuck in the era of, even the PlayStation 1's been before it. Like, it doesn't feel like you can kind of like save the game to do like, to progress. It's almost like there was no save states that you could do between the levels effectively you're expected to get through. I was playing easy mode, and I played this for about 2 hours, and I did not progress past level 2. Like, it was so tough, and I couldn't believe how like difficult it was. It was very complicated to be able to catch all the different colours, and there's different types of fireworks as well. And you're on rails, so basically it's a cool concept. Sorry, I'm really jumping around with this because it is weird. You are almost like flying through a cityscape skyline on the first level, for example, and you are seeing fireworks going off, and there's like an airplane going off in the background, and there's lovely music playing, that the audio is really good, and it's almost like, and it shows you on a map, almost like, I don't know why it does this, because it doesn't make a fucking iota of difference to you of where your path is kind of going through the sky, like as in like a weird sort of snake, and you're like, well, why is that there? I don't really understand what that's there for. So yeah, it's really cool setup, but it's just so clunky in its execution of the actual gameplay. You can, as is almost the way we spoke about with shmups previously and things like that, you can get to a point where you build up a meter called your star mine meter, and if you catch certain types of fireworks and detonate them, then they will fill up your star mine meter. And if you fill up your star mine meter, you get to have a minute of extra bonus scoring on fireworks, and it's very low level difficulty, and actually just boosts your score up and keeps you going. It's so difficult to get into star mine mode. The amount of times I got to like one star away from one firework away from star mine mode, it was ridiculous. And I was just like, oh, just make that a bit easier for people. Like, as in, like make that so that maybe you start off with some star mine modes in your back pocket, like you would with mines in shmups, where if you need to get a get out of jail free card, you are failing the level. That is in, and it starts flashing red and saying you're not doing very well. To be able to then launch that, for example, that would have been a lot better, but you had to earn that as well. So it was almost like double jeopardy, like as in you were getting into trouble, like, and you didn't have anything to get out of, and you were like one star mine away from having this mode, and you're like, I just need this firework to turn up, and it never turned up when you needed it to. So yeah, it just, and the setup as well, you have to watch the tutorial, which I kind of wanted to anyway, but it's so painfully slow. Like this game from the year 2000, like is in it. When I say like in terms of how slow it felt, like is in like reading the text and then the person talking, telling you what's going on. It was taking fucking ages. And you just think, I'm trying to play this really fun game about colourful fireworks and stuff, and I do want to learn, don't get me wrong, but it is going this slow, explaining the rules. And there are about 25 different rules of how the firework, etc., etc. And you're just like, I want to play the game. Can I play the game? Can I play the game? Yeah, it had stuff going for it that I thought that if they polished up the mechanisms and if they just made it just more user friendly and a bit easier and less like a difficult arcade game that they seem to have thought that that's what people might have wanted, then it would have had something going for it. But yeah, there was just so many things that were wrong, and I'm so glad that I never owned it as a child, because I think it would have put me off the PlayStation 2 a little bit. It wasn't the worst game I've ever played, but it was a pretty poor game, to be honest. I could imagine being in an arcade and maybe doing like, having a big sort of screen in front of me with fireworks going off and loads of buttons to press, loads of different colours buttons and stuff. That's what I felt like it needed. Yeah. Almost like, like
eight, a peripheral.
Yeah, exactly. Like eight different buttons or something like that. And you're like, and the star mine button is like, hammering buttons, like slapping them with your hands and stuff. Trying to sort of do this with an analog stick and spin the analog stick towards your correct firework, and then these fireworks, and you can see the firework off in the corner of the screen. You're thinking, I need to get that in the next like millisecond. I need to catch that firework and then detonate these ones, and then I'll survive. Oh, it's fucking gone off, and it gone, and the whole level is just like start again. You're like, oh, like I needed a save state. I just needed something to make it more user friendly, and this puzzle game that was meant to be fun. For the start of the PlayStation 2, I'm so glad I never owned it back then. It is on PS Plus Premium if you do want to go and suffer a little bit. If you want to go into the scoreboard and you want to beat famous top players such as Kiro, KLI, A Scarabin. Those are the people that you might want to get by. Then that was the fake scoreboard that I just thought was pretty funny, to be honest. But yeah, it was just tough to go back to, if I'm going to be honest.
So I'm having a look at our score spreadsheet, trying to work out like, what does that sound like? Does that sound better or worse than Chase the Express? And I got to admit, as I sit here right now, I think that sounds a little bit worse. It doesn't sound like there's much meat on those particular bones.
Yeah, I'm not going to come out and like save it any. Like it deserves marks for me for trying to do something unique, but it did it really shit.
Does it feel like it was basically a tech demo that someone bolted some mechanics onto? Like, I can imagine that with the fireworks going off and stuff like that, it might have been possibly seen as a bit of a showcase for visuals, maybe?
Well, maybe, but then for like, if you think about it from the point of view that then it's coming out at the same sort of time. I mean, look at Ridge Racer 5's visuals.
Well, I guess
Do you know
that was
what I mean?
kind of where I was going with it.
Like, as in, and it's not like Ape Escape was a tech demo for the analog stick. Like, Ape Escape is genuinely a very good game. Like, as in, this was a really shit game. I think that Sony just dropped the ball in terms of who they were trusting to launch something. They were thinking, we want to do a really fun, family-friendly puzzle game for the PlayStation 2 to launch it with, something that everyone's going to grab. And they end up with this really difficult, awkward, weird puzzle game that I could imagine maybe teenage boys kind of going and trying to get a high score, but even them going, I'd rather
Ridge
be
Racer 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right, 1 out of 10 then.
Okay, cool.
It's happened.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really comfortable with that. I'm really comfortable. I am. Like, I could have varied anywhere between, say, sort of 1 and a 3. Do you know what I mean?
4,
Like, yeah. But at the same time, for what I felt like it was a drag. At least with Chase the Express last week, I had a game that I could get angry at.
It came on 2 discs.
Yeah.
That's content.
I felt something towards that.
Yeah.
Fantavision, I was so confused by. Like, as in, I don't know who it was for or why it exists. And the fact that that's on PS Plus Premium and there are things that aren't on there. That is in, there we go. I'd rather have Chase the Express on PS Plus Premium.
Oh, that's a good yardstick, isn't it?
Yeah, than I would do Fantavision. Cool. So, something else that is to lighten the mood on PS Plus Premium is Rez Infinite. You played Rez?
I have.
Have you played Rez Infinite?
I have.
Excellent. Have you played it in virtual reality?
I have not.
Oh. So, I have played Rez Infinite on my MetaQuest 3S headset. So, I bought it for, I think it was like £7.50 in a sale. And so, Rez, for the listeners out there who might want to know a little bit more about where Rez came from, so Rez is a game from 2001, the PlayStation 2, and it was, and also the Dreamcast as well. And I think it initially came out. I think it was for the Dreamcast effectively. So it was designed by United Game artists who have got great credentials: Sega Rally 2, Star Wars Arcade Trilogy, Space Channel 5, and this. That's kind of like the things they did. And it's like, oh, that's pretty good. You can go to your grave and go, yeah, it's all right, wasn't it? And then, rightly so, they thought we should update Rez in 15 years' time. So in 2016, and we should make it for VR because of the way that it works.
Yep.
So it is an on-rails rhythm shooter game. You're kind of flying through this wireframe world, if you will, and you are aiming your reticle at different enemies who look a bit like sort of something from Star Wars Arcade, probably. And they're a lot of blocky, imagine Halo 4 sort of enemies, the Guardians and things that these sort of, and the reason that you're doing this is because you are a hacker and you are flying into the cyberspace to try and rescue an AI. I think it's called Eden. And the AI is failing. This AI is meant to be the bastion for all of humanity in the future. And it's meant to be something that is good for us, but it's failing. So somebody's been sent in, the hacker, to fix the AI. So you're in the cyberspace.
Lovely.
Well, isn't that nice? You're in the IKEA warehouse of of the internet. So it's a bit. I keep on using this, and you'll probably go. Eventually, you'll go, no, you're wrong. It's a bit Shmup-esque, in so much that you shoot enemies, you build up an evolving form, so as you start to do well in terms of how well you're killing your enemies, if you will, you will, and also you pick up these power ups that evolve you to give you different weaponry, and also it gives you, I guess, it's almost like a life system, so you evolve up to the best form, if you will, whatever that is, where you're sort of sitting in a Buddha stance as you're flying through these stages, and then you could get hit 5 times, for example, before it would be a game fail state, and then also you can earn effectively what are it's called the overdrive mode, but effectively they're bombs really, and they're the get out of jail free things that I would have preferred to have had in Fantavision, in terms of you can use these bombs whenever you need to use them to be able to combat more difficult enemies. Is this all ringing a bell? When was the last time you played Rez?
Like that rings true. Yeah, and like the sort of timing of the chimes and the shots and all that kind of stuff coincide with the music, and it all kind of marries together. For me, it always played in a kind of it played kind of like Panzer Dragoon, cool vibes. But personally, I preferred Panzer Dragoon.
Oh, really? That's
interesting. Like okay. I got on with Rez.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. But I get the appeal. But yeah, there was something about Panzer Dragoon that I prefer. I think it was the kind of parpy, bombastic, swashbuckling soundtrack rather than the kind of techno synthy stuff.
Yeah.
But if that's your bag, then that's your bag.
It definitely felt like the human traffic of games. Like, and I think that where it comes to the forefront of the genuine, effectively you're beating an enemy to death, like you're beating a drum to get the musical rhythm out of it. That is cool. Like, and level 4 is like almost the perfect kind of gaming level to me. Like the music that goes with that, the synchronicity with you destroying an enemy, and the way that the music goes along with that is incredible. Take all this and put it into a VR headset.
I was gonna say,
and you are not the hacker. You are not in the. You are still third person.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it is incredible. Like, it's in the feelings of elation, feeling emotionally battered in a good way. That is in just that. I genuinely the first 3 levels, the one thing I'd say to go against Rez is that it's quite easy on the normal mode, really. That is, I got to the end of this game, the VR version, in 45 minutes, and I got to the last boss, and I died in the last boss, where you are building this AI back up as you are fighting all these enemies and all these sort of demi bosses and things, and then I got into fail state for the not for the first time, but the first time onto this level, and I must have been probably about 2 minutes away from completing this level. This level that in level 5 is quite long, and you start again from the start of level 5, and I got to within like an inch of completing it. The blood curdling scream I gave out from within my VR world, realizing that my wife was still sat in the room, and I'm She's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you've no idea how close I was to completing this game. It was my first run through level 5 as well. I just went for it. I was like, I just need to put the head onto this AI form, and just fucking died. It just level 4 in the VR world is absolutely sensational. That is in, so like I said, going back to that, the music, and you end up with the boss battle. It's this terrifying cubic sort of human running after you, and to look up at that in virtual reality goggles, it's just amazing, so cool. And yeah, wow, it really was like quite breathtaking, the last 2 levels. Level 5, everyone kind of goes, oh, it's this sort of like odyssey through human life, effectively like evolution of human life, which it is. But I enjoy level 4 more, but level 5 does this thing where it just takes your lunch money, beats the shit out of you, and then says, get up now. And it goes, do it again. And it just does that. And, and to be honest, if you go on harder difficulties, I can see how that would be like, wow. Like at one point, and again, this is why this is so much better than Fantavision, for example, you can do the level and then you can go and move on to the next level. You don't have to go back and do that level, where Fantavision was like, oh no, do all 8 levels again. Like, isn't there no save states in this game? And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, whereas, with Rez, I probably didn't need to go back to level 1, 2, and 3 because I personally had evolved as a gamer to the point where I was like, literally, like, you know, the point,
ascended.
Yeah, do you know when like Neo's like fighting against Agent Smith and just starts doing the sort of the chopping hand and like, you know, just stops all the bullets. You're like, no, that's me now. Like level 1, 2, and 3, out my way. Like even then, like level 4 was like in the end out my way. And then level 5, I was like, I kind of want to do this on like the hardest mode I possibly can, and I want it to punch me in the face. I genuinely felt like punch drunk from playing this game. Like, as in, I took my VR headset off after like an hour and a half, and I was like, whoa, like that's so fucking cool. Yeah, it was incredible. The one thing I would say that really annoyed me, and this isn't part of the review, but. Well, it does count because it was a part of the game that was broken. Was that there's an extra mode. It's called Area X that got put into Rez Infinite, and this is almost like a free space mode. So Rez is on rails, that is in, so you can move around, but you can't move freely within the 3D space. Whereas Area X you can. The Area X mode on my app for the MetaQuest is broken. I can't use it. It just doesn't load up. And when I looked on the internet. I found enough of a trail of breadcrumbs to say that it might be a problem, but it must not be a massive widespread problem because hardly anybody answered me or I could find anything about it really to say that actually it was a problem. I was like, that's really weird and really annoying. And this is one of the problems with the MetaQuest 3. Once you've bought an app, if you've played over like a minute of the app or whatever and stuff, like that's it, you bought it. And so that was really annoying. So that's when I did pick it up on the PS Plus Premium and go and play the Area X, like on the PlayStation 4. It's still really good to go and do. Like to play on a console, that is in. And that was, I'm really annoyed that I can't do that in an immersive way because that is almost like a black space, and you can probably, I'm hoping I paint a good enough image here where you imagine that you go down to the deepest depths of the ocean and it's completely pitch black, and then you see all the fish that have got neon markings on them and things, and you start to swish through like stars and things, and you just affect time and space while you're doing it. To see that on the PlayStation 4, very impressive. To do that in VR goggles, I assume, must be absolutely incredible as well. I'm really annoyed that I just, like, for whatever reason, but I don't want to say that that's part of it because there was so few people that I could find anything that people had said it didn't work for them. I was a bit like, maybe it's just mine.
Just uninstall and re-download it.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Maybe it's just so, but it's just something to be aware of, really, that I did experience myself. But yeah, it just, I will be hooked on this game for longer because there's a high score mode. There's like extended modes that you can do as well where you have to, and this is where the difficulty comes in. And I will go back to level 1, 2, and 3 because actually I can do a better job of my scoring on those and then therefore unlock more parts of the game as well. So that it does give you sort of reason to go back to that. You know, I think I'm fucking Neo over here, but I haven't 100%ed it yet. But yeah, it just, everything's so well weighted. The evolution of the character as you fly through to give you, I guess, enough of a protective bubble around you against the right bosses at the right times is great. You seem to earn the overdrive bombs at the right time as well, which is almost like, again,
always helps.
Yeah, I was talking about Fantavision where that wasn't happening. This was happening in the right times, and you felt like you earned them at the right times. So this just did everything right that Fantavision did wrong for me, and it's no, I'm not going to say it's the best app I've played on MetaQuest, but it's definitely up there. Like, as in, you know, and yeah, and if you can go away and experience this in VR, I absolutely would say go and do it because I think that when I sat down and looked at Area X on PlayStation 4, really, really good. But yeah, putting it around your head and just being in that space, you know, I can imagine being a hacker in 2001, you know, listening to some sort of orbital soundtrack or so. Yeah. How about that?
I am slotting that in 9 out of 10.
Oh,
I think.
Yes. I mean, I had it as 9 out of 10. Thank you for that. I genuinely, I was exhilarated by that game. I was. For an hour and 45 minutes, I was having the best time. Yeah, and it really was an advert for what games can do in the virtual reality world of things. Well, and the improvement you get from that.
I guess that it's it's kind of a format, a style, an approach that I guess could probably lend itself quite well to it. So no, that's in the books now.
Yeah, I think that being on rails as much as you possibly can in a VR sense, it helps so much with the games that I enjoy the most. Is almost like if you can make something. If you can make a game that you can move around in, but not really actually move around in,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That is in the and experience all the motion sickness and things, and that's why I was talking about like Super Hot, for example, and stuff like to stop time just by you stopping moving, like as in and taking that breath and things. That all really helps. So yeah, it's really great when you find an app that somebody's just nailed on the go. This concept from 2001. Put it in here. We don't have to do anything to it. It just is in barely really. And it just works so well. It's almost like ahead of its time when they thought about when they were publishing it. But yeah, cool. Thank you very much for your time, guys, and we will speak to you again soon.
Cheers.